Welcome to Cable in Florida. Florida's cable customers today can view hundreds of channels of the most diverse, informative, and entertaining programs in the world. They can interact with their televisions by getting programming on demand, pausing live shows, and selecting digital or high-definition channels. Floridians can also surf the internet on cable at speeds unheard of a decade ago. And Florida's cable companies are also offering high-quality local and long-distance telephone service. The cable companies of Florida are deeply committed to their communities, providing more than 15,000 jobs, millions of charitable dollars, and many hours of volunteer service in education, mentoring, and improving digital literacy. This program seeks to keep you informed about the latest trends in cable technology and services and the latest activities of Florida cable companies' involvement in local communities. Welcome to Cable in Florida.
Today, Cable in Florida profiles Cox Communications, Florida. Covering Northwest Florida, Ocala, and Gainesville, Cox Communications provides cable TV, high-speed internet, and phone service to nearly 300,000 cable customers. Cox Communications has always made public service a hallmark of its partnership with its customers.
The original founder of the company felt that being involved in the community was absolutely essential. It was the right thing to do, not only for the community, but it's a good thing for the business. It just makes good business sense for us to be involved in the fabric of the community.
Keith Gregory is Senior Vice President and General Manager for Cox Communications, Florida and Georgia. He has worked for the company for over 30 years. Later in the show, we'll talk with him about the company's commitment to community service and making sure customers receive the finest programming and technology available. But first, we focus on a community volunteer program spearheaded by Cox Communications during the catastrophic BP oil spill disaster. We'll also talk with the Okaloosa County Superintendent of Schools, who is partnering with Cox Communications to assist in education projects in the wake of the spill. Sheila Nichols is Director of Government and Public Affairs for Cox, Florida. She recalls how Cox Communications organized a massive effort to provide goods and services to assist a wildlife sanctuary.
Our employees were watching this unfold via the national media, and they really wanted to do something to make a difference in our area. When hurricanes impact our area, we know what to do. We know how to pitch in, we know how to rebuild homes, we know how to support businesses, we know how to collect food, we know how to provide ice for those needy. We know what to do. But this was a different type of disaster. This was a man-made environmental disaster with hazardous materials.
Cox Communications employees researched who might need emergency services.
What we determined in talking with the local wildlife sanctuaries is they would be tapped to take care of the wildlife for long-term rehabilitation. And that's where we felt like we can make a difference as employees and to get involved. So we created a website and we posted information about the materials that the wildlife sanctuaries would need in order to take care of the long-term rehabilitation needs of the wildlife that would be eventually impacted by the oil spill in our local area.
Pensacola is the home of the Wildlife Sanctuary for Northwest Florida. Cox Communications offered volunteer assistance to the sanctuary, and it was welcome. Dorothy Kaufman is the longtime director of the sanctuary.
We were fielding about 100 calls a day from the community asking what they could do and asking us questions that we really didn't have answers for, as far as how soon will the oil be here, what about all the birds, what about all the wildlife, what about the fish, where are they going to eat, where are they going to find food, what are you going to do?
The sanctuary became the hub to transfer injured and oil-soaked birds to Melbourne, Florida on the Atlantic, far enough away so the wildlife couldn't easily return to the Gulf.
We started a relay team, and our relay team then was set up with our volunteers.
Many of those volunteers were from Cox Communications.
To have Cox Communications step up to the plate in such a huge warm hug was amazing. They just jumped in with both feet immediately when they heard of the spill, and wanted to see what they can do. We had somebody coming in wanting to take care of us, and it was great, and it still is great. They have not let up. They've just been amazing. All the folks, whether it's moving supplies, collecting supplies, or doing any kind of fundraisers, they've been right there for us, and we absolutely could not have done it without them.
To date, we've collected over 12,000 items, from baby food to bird seed to latex gloves to paper towels, and over $5,000 through just the Wildlife Supply Initiative. But we also wanted to broaden our already pretty broad outreach, and we partnered with our sister system in Louisiana, Cox, Louisiana, on a SOS Save Our Shore Gulf Coast relief effort where people could give monetarily to the SOS drive, and they could text $10 to help people who were impacted by the oil spill through grants through nonprofit organizations.
Cox Communications, they took our wish list of supplies that we needed, and they put out a call to so many folks, and specifically they showed up with a 24-foot huge truck, but they also brought volunteers with them to unload it, which is actually a big deal here because manpower is a shortage for a lot of things. And Cox Communication had paper towels and laundry soap and bleach, and they had food items. They had everything you can imagine that we had on our list. They had loaded in that truck, and it was like I went to the grocery store a million times. They filled my building, and when I say filled, I'm saying we had little hallways to walk through where we had supplies loaded up to the ceiling, and it was wonderful. I mean, you're talking at least 6 months worth of supplies that showed up in one day.
Those supplies were being used in the Sanctuary Hospital.
This osprey over here actually came in from the Panama City, Fort Walton, as east of us, obviously. And so we've been treating it for a little bit of a head injury. As you can see, there's a little bit of a bruising on the front, but it's a very, very feisty bird. But you have to be careful with the osprey. Ospreys can't do air conditioning actually for very long. The lack of humidity has been documented to be very damaging, but they also have to be on extra vitamins. This little guy came in with fishing line and fish hooks all over him. So that being removed, he was then weighed, and now what we're doing is making sure that secondary infections don't start up where the fish hooks were. So he's about ready to go outside, then he'll practice his flying, and he'll be ready to go.
Cox Communications has also partnered with local school systems to promote education about the impact of the oil spill.
We already work very closely with the school district in Escambia County and the school district in Okaloosa County in South Walton. And we tapped into them and we asked, what are you already doing educating the children about the oil spill? And you know, our effort, what we wanted was to educate children, but we also wanted to encourage them to understand the ecological system and to be stewards of the environment, but with the long-term recovery of the oil spill. And so what we're doing through the schools, they already had some programs already initiated. So what Cox is doing through the schools, we're collecting pennies for pelicans and loose change through the schools that will go to benefit the SOS, Save Our Shore, Gulf Coast relief effort. And we're also doing a 30-second PSA contest where the schools, individuals, media centers can produce a 30-second PSA on good environmental stewardship, be it conservation or be it just how to protect the environment. And those PSAs are going to be judged and selected and will air on our local origination channels with Cox.
Okaloosa Superintendent Alexis Tibbetts appreciates Cox Communications' assistance and has made the long-term study of the oil spill a priority for students.
They measure the composite of the water, they look at different water samples, and they're charting them now. They're actually comparing them to what they were several years ago and during peak hurricane times, and then they will compare it to the future as to what happens in the oil spill. Our teachers have been trained at almost every elementary school to not just look at these results, but to enter them in the computer, to have kids use different kinds of even chromatography and centrifuge and things that they can use to really analyze the specimens.
The students were also curious about the robotic arm that helped cap the BP well.
And as much as we're into biodiversity and studying things, the robotic arms were really very catching for students. They got very involved in how robots can be used to gain samples and specimens and fix problems deep under the sea level. And I am excited to say that they got busy, and we have about 9 or 10 of our schools that are elementary, and all of our high schools and half of our middle schools that will participate in Robotics First next year.
The Cox Communications Education Partnership is a strong one.
They help get the word out to our parents in lots and lots of ways. They also sponsor our academic team competition, which is a real hook and a motivator for our students. They sponsor Cable in the Classroom. One of the newer things that Cox has helped us with is provide information for parents about how children can stay safe on the internet. We're very, very grateful for Cox Communication and everything they've done to help us in our school system. I think Cox values education. I think they know that the children that are in school today are going to be our future leaders in our nation. I think they realize the importance of getting the word out about good things that are going on in public education.
Ms. Nichols sums up Cox Communications' attitude toward community service.
We're good corporate stewards. It is our nature as a trusted provider company to pitch in and to take care of our communities, and where there's a need, we really try to rise to the occasion. We have great employees and they want to give back to their communities, and that's our nature. That's what we do. We're a good trusted provider company.
We need to take a short break. You're watching Cable in Florida, featuring Cox Cable Communications and their commitment to public service. This show is being brought to you by the Florida Cable Telecommunications Association and these Florida cable companies.